welcome to Are You Pregnant with Purpose? This is the first part of a series that I'm going to be doing where we're going to talk about the process of being pregnant with purpose. We all have a gift inside of us. We are creative. We do something with our lives. And because of that, we are purpose-driven people. And because we are purpose-driven people, we are creating something and building out something, developing it and creating something new. And it's like birthing a child. It is our child. How many times have you heard a person say when they're working on a business, trying to make something, trying to do a show, music, something, anything that they're trying to do, the first thing they say, it's my baby. It's like it's my baby. We are developing and creating babies. They're just not in our wombs. And it's almost like the story in the Bible when Mary went through the process of carrying baby Jesus. An angel came down to her and told her, "You're going to be carrying the Messiah." And she said, "How is that? I have not known a man." Well, when we create our businesses, we don't particularly need a man to help us create that. It is the immaculate conception of a thought process. But we have to, in creating that, just like a baby, we have to nurture it. We have to go through the process of conception. We have to prepare ourselves for conception. And we have to develop within it. That means we have to walk through the different areas, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially, financially, credit-wise, creating nest eggs, creating what is necessary in order to sit and position ourselves just like you would if you were planning to have a child, to prepare yourself to be able to carry the weight of operating in your purpose. And a lot of people do not know this. So when you are preparing for the process of conceiving that baby, you are doing all of these things in order to prevent loss, because there's a part that you have to understand that women go through. I've seen these videos recently. One of the ministers I follow, she recently had a miscarriage, and she talked about how when she went into the hospital, they told her that she had had a chemical pregnancy, which means that she was only pregnant for about 6 weeks. But the amount of time in which she was pregnant, she thought that she was pregnant. She did the test. It came out positive that she had been pregnant. And one morning she went to work and she felt like she was having a miscarriage. So she went into the hospital because she didn't feel right. And that's what they told her. She had a chemical pregnancy. And a chemical pregnancy is when it's almost as if I'm explaining it right, that it starts the pregnancy process. Your body starts to feel the pregnancy process and almost creates a clot that develops. It's starting to get the nutrients and all of the things that the starting off of the gestation of a pregnancy would go through, but it's almost like it wasn't going to become a child, but your body felt as if it was, if I'm explaining that correctly. How many times have we as business people gone through that? We may have had a thought We may have had an idea. We may have began the process, started the development, had the amalgamation of the idea, but at some point it was good, but it wasn't what was necessary to be able to sustain, because we didn't know how to sustain it. Our mentality was not able to carry the gestation of the fetus because our mentality was not in the right place. So chemically, because of what was going on internally within us, we caused it to be stillborn or aborted in its earliest phase. Or it wasn't going to become anything because of our negative mindset. Why so? Did you know that negativity is like a poison and that it can fester and make you ill? You ever heard the saying that basically what goes on within you, meaning the person that has caused negativity towards you. Let's say you had an idea and you told somebody prematurely about this idea that you had. This is what happens with a lot of pregnant people. Well, they'll find out they're pregnant. They're happy about the pregnancy, but they have not observed the risks, the stresses, and all of that. And because they're so early within their pregnancy, they have exposed the baby. How many of us get excited when we get an idea and we want to tell people? Guilty. I'm guilty. I want to tell people. But I've learned over time I can't tell people what it is that I'm working on when I'm working on it. Because if I tell you what I'm working on and you have the wrong mindset, you can kill my baby. You can kill the baby. I can't tell you about the baby because your negativity will cause me to become angry and to hold and to harvest that anger. And anger is like poison. It is poisoning me. Unforgiveness. If I'm unforgiving to you for how you treated my baby at gestation, talking all kinds of nastiness towards this thing that I just got an idea about because people believe that because they think that they know you. Lisa Nichols has a tendency to say this. I saw it pop up on my YouTube feed earlier this week. Actually, it popped up twice this week. Other people's perception of you is none of your business. So when you get a new idea, and let's say you get the idea and the brilliance to share it with somebody, you might create a chemical pregnancy if you tell the wrong people and allow their perspectives to dilute you. And if that chemical pregnancy occurs and you miscarry, that anger creates the poison of the chemical that creates the reaction that will cause that fetus, for what it is that you are creating, to die. Was that deep enough for you? Do I need to get deeper? So we have to be careful in the beginning to prevent our own losses. There's something that I want to reference. That's why I'm looking over here at the computer. So basically, that's just the intro point. So do you see where I'm saying that basically when you're starting something, it's like birthing a baby. Did you know that? It was like birthing an actual baby. So you're going through the same ups and downs. You're going through the same emotional conflict within yourself. You're going through all of this while you're preparing to birth this baby. And it's pivotal in the beginning that you are creating what it is that's necessary within yourself in order to prepare yourself to be able to carry this baby. So we're going to go a little bit deeper tonight, and we're going to just talk about the preparation of conceiving and conception of a baby. Shall we? Let's see. So let's start with the fact that when you are conceiving a child, let's start, for me, my conception. I would call my conception when I made the decision wholeheartedly to give my life to God. Now, one might say, what does that have to do with birthing your purpose? I didn't have a purpose until I gave my life to God. Nothing that I have created in the past several years was developed until after I gave my life to God. Now, some might say, oh, you're getting all woo-woo on me. No, I'm not. Because this was what made my journey possible. My conception started with God. And if you really want to get to that level, all of our conception started there. You can get scientific, you can do all of that. We ain't going to stay there. We're going to talk about what my conception was. As a child, I learned God from my mother. My mother used to teach me how to pray as a child, around 6 years old. She's the first person that taught me to kneel at the side of the bed and pray. I went through years back and forth, my father going into the church. I didn't want to go to church. I went to about 6 services throughout my entire childhood, adolescent life, teenage life. But I wasn't really drawn to being in church. People look at me now, if they hear me now, they'd probably be like, I don't believe it. She talk about God all the time. She's always looking at something with God. She's always in relation to something with God. She's always very positive about God. You didn't like to go to church and stuff when you was younger? Nope. Nope. Not at all. I went to college. I went to this. I went to that. But I didn't really like God like that. But because my mother taught me how to pray, I'd seen my mother pray. I watched my mother pray. Sometimes she'd be praying over her finances when things were acting funny. Look who prays over her finances today. My mother used to do that. I've learned better ways to do so, but we're not here or there. That's where my conception started. Prayer. I lost my mother when I was 17 years old. I'm about 34 now. Don't I look good for 34? Praise Jesus. But walked through a season of my life where I gained and I lost a lot of things. But during that time, I went to college. And during that time, I studied fashion design. I studied marketing and entrepreneurship and a lot of things that you're going to learn from me. If you stick with me and stick with this channel, you're going to learn a lot of the things that I learned throughout that time frame that are present and important now to what's going on in society now and how you can build. But what I've come to find is that I was lost for a lot of years. I lived place here, place there. And in that process, I was in a relationship. Relationship wasn't working out the way that I wanted it to. And I tried to hold on to that relationship for a long time, way too long. And looking back on it, I should have let it go. And under the Christian and biblical standpoint, I should have never been in it, to be honest. But I'm glad I was, because had I never been in that relationship, I wouldn't know now what I wanted in a relationship when I go into my next relationship. Because I saw everything I didn't in that one. And I started to learn to pray even then. And I was praying during that time frame. I knew to pray. When everything got rough, I started to pray. And I noticed there was something that changed in the person I was with. Every time I started mentioning prayer, they got righteously indignant. And I started having nightmares. I started going through all kinds of mental and emotional warfare. And I just had to let it go. And they ended up leaving, which was probably the best thing at that time, because it was literally making me sick to be with them any longer. And I couldn't understand why. So I walked through that time frame, and I had yet to have given my life to God fully, which I did not do until, what year was that? 2014, when I had hit rock bottom, and I was sitting in my room one day, and I couldn't get anything in my life to work for me. Not near thing. I was spending more time laying in the dark, in that dark, dank, wood-paneled room, trying to figure my life out. And it was like God gave me an epiphany. Back then, when I actually did every once in a while pick up a magazine and look at the horoscope, I looked it up that particular day, and it said, if you don't change your life right now, you are headed to disaster. Yes, a horoscope led me to Jesus. But what followed was the fact that I had a Bible that I had bought 2 years earlier and ordered it, and it was in my closet, buried under my stuff, and the fact that I decided to actually pull it out. Then, the next factor was the fact that, weirdly on Facebook, all of a sudden, I started to get Facebook messages. Jesus is calling, would you answer? Now, I'm sitting there thinking, wait, what? This is a little joke, right? Right? Because, you see them posts all the time. Something's calling, would you answer? This is calling, would you answer? So I'm like, sure, whatever, I'll do it. Did I not know what I was getting myself into? Because when I said yes, out loud, weird things started happening. I started getting biblical posts all over my feed, and I'm like, wait, how did this happen? When did this happen? And my brilliantness, I picked up a Bible and actually started reading the scriptures that I was finding on that Facebook page. I started highlighting them. I started doing all of that. And I remember there was a day that a gentleman came to me and he said, "Oh, did you just come out of that church?" I was like, "No, I did not." And he said, "Well, have you ever thought about giving your life to God? Would you?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. I even had that silent little conversation with him. Yeah." And I thought about it later. I'm thinking I'm just having a conversation with myself. Like, yeah, I'll do that. Little did I know, when I said yes, for real, my life changed. Conception. When the process begins, I had to go through a series of events that broke me and developed me simultaneously. Why do I tell you this? Because in that breaking, I got direction. Because just as I went on my Facebook and I saw that Jesus is calling, I saw an advertisement for a Lisa Nichols ad for her doing a challenge on Periscope. What? Was it that way? Yeah, that's what I believe it went. And I said, let me do it. So I went and I watched her entire challenge. I got involved in it, and sometimes I think I went back and I was looking at something I had linked to somebody else. It was a feed that was in their back feed, and I hadn't seen that video in years. But I went in, I did that challenge, and that was the first time I had ever heard about creating 7 to 9 streams of income. And the number one to create was to write a book. Wow. Write a book? Yeah. Write a book. So, what do you think I did? Coming towards the end of 2014, right after I did that challenge, me, right around the beginning, right around February, guess who sat down for 6 weeks and wrote her first book? Hello. So, when that process was done, at the time I had been actually going to therapy. I do not knock therapy, but I will give you this warning. Therapy can help you. Do I believe in medicine? If it's holistic. For every pharmaceutical medication, there is a holistic remedy for whatever it is that is ailing you. Start holistically and move from there. Because what you're putting in your body chemically can alter you, hurt you, and harm you. We're not going to talk about a lot of the things that we see going on publicly right there. But I'm going to say, think very carefully about what you are putting in your body. I became vegan a few years back. I think it's been about right around the time that I gave my life to Christ, around that season, I became vegan. I have not really touched meat. The closest I get to touching meat is I might use maybe a broth when push comes to shove, I might use an actual chicken broth. And I do still eat eggs. But I'm trying to transition off of regular eggs to like the just eggs and stuff like that. That's here or there. But that goes back to my point of preparing the body for having a baby. So, what I was doing when I went through that spiritual process of coming to the Lord was I was mentally preparing and internally preparing my spirit to carry what I was preparing to build. Now, society and the world's gonna give you all different type of woohoo and mojos in which you can decide in which you want to, whatever your regimen is. I rep Jesus all day. I love Jesus all day. Live and love Jesus all day. I've seen how Jesus has done for me in my life. You can't get me off Jesus, okay? So that was my conceptual internal centering. Other people use other things. I like to center with Jesus. How's that? But you come into your center. And with that, I learned how to ask, seek, and knock. Now, in the beginning, I will say this. In the beginning, what kind of led me into it, into the asking, seeking, and knocking, is I watched a 15-minute video talking about Napoleon Hill, and when I saw ask, seek, knock, I was like, wait, that's straight from the Bible. Why? And because I had just really started reading the Bible, I was like, that's not the Bible. You know that's written in the Bible in 10 different variations? No, 11. It's 11 different variations of that same scripture in the entire Bible. Ask, and you shall receive. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be open. Yeah. Napoleon Hill just stole it right straight from the Bible. You can't write out the Bible. Go figure. But with that being said, all things are working together for our good. Everything has a purpose and everything has a process. We just have to know how to walk through that process. How do you learn to walk through that process? Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision and make it plain for runners to go and get at the appointed time. When I sat down in February of 2015 to write my manuscript, I was writing the vision. I was beginning the process of writing the vision to make it plain. Because he who reads it may run with it, though it tarry. Wait for it. When I say tarry, I wrote that book February 2015. We coming up on February 2022. And we just starting to see a little sense of movement towards something about to go down with that book. So, what I'm saying is, you can become pregnant with a purpose and see the process, and it take time. Just like when you are preparing to birth a child, you don't get the idea to birth a child and the next day that child is coming out of you. Your body has to prepare for the process of carrying that child. So how do you prepare to carry something you're preparing to birth? I'm going to tell you what every business person is going to tell you that they do. Pick any field: interior design, fashion design, music, book writing. What do? Write the vision and make it plain. When I started my journey with God, I literally created a vision board of the things I wanted to do with my life and my career. Somewhere on this computer, I actually have that vision board that I initially created, because I periodically, from time to time, will use it in examples for what it is that I do. And I literally created a vision for what it is that I desired to do with my life at that particular time. Musician will create a vision board for their songs, a storyboard for their videos. A fashion designer will create a mood board for their collection concept. And a interior designer will create a mock-up board for what the interior design of the room, house, space is supposed to look like. What's the vision? Do you have a vision? Where does your vision start? And how do you plan to achieve it? I literally was in a course today talking about creating your vision. We all have to have a vision. If you desire to have children, you have to have a vision of what you're going to do once you have that child. A lot of people desire to have children, but they do not understand conceptually what it is to have a child. Because you can carry that child for 9 months, and that's difficult in itself. But once that baby comes out, you have to deal with it. Meaning, every time it cries, every time it needs to be fed, every time it needs to be changed, as it is growing up, how are you instilling? Are you yelling at it every time it cries? Are you paying it no attention? Are you giving it the right amount of attention and nurturing and all of these types of things that child would need in order to be developed into what it is that it needs as it needs to grow in this time? What are you doing? How are you doing that? How are you helping? How are you increasing? How are you planning for that child? Statistically, previously, and I'm talking about maybe 15 years ago, there used to be a commercial that would come on, and it talked about the average cost of having a child from the time it is born to 18 years old used to be $18,500 for one child on average. Then I want to know. Let's look this up. How much does it cost to take care of a child from 18 to 20, from birth to 18 now? How much does it cost to take care of a just got the wounds thing. Oh goodness. Sorry for going off camera, y'all. But I don't want to lose you. In 2020, the cost of taking care of a child, drumroll, was $75,436, and for a couple, that was $100,002, $627,000. Now, let me make sure that that's in English. Okay. They're saying that it costs in English money. Look. I don't know if they showed that to you straight, but yeah, that's what that costs in English money. 200,000, $233,610 from the time that child is born to 18 years old. Most people aren't thinking about that. This is why before you have a child, you need to be thinking about if that's how much money it costs, and that's probably just for one child. You know how many people out here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, I heard of a pastor the other day. Lie to you not, he got 11 kids. Multiply that by 11. 11. So it's very, 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 very important that you look at your financial foundation before you have a child. Now, what does this have to do with a business? Let me tell you. When you start a business, it costs money. It costs you money to develop that business in such a way that when you are creating your business, it's going to be effective. All right. I remember a time when people used to go and get $150,000 loan just to start a business. Now today you don't really need that if you plan yourself outright to start. You can start with nothing and build to a point that you can get that $150,000 when necessary. But in the beginning, it actually is not necessary for you to do that. Okay? It's not necessary. But you should have a nest egg. They always tell you that when you are starting a business, that you should try to start to save money, just like you would if you were having a baby, to save the money to be able to take care of the needs of that business, the upkeep. Even if you're doing social media, you're doing ads, you're doing all of these types of things, if you can start to be able to have some money on the side for that, it's a good starting point. Amen. So, you got to create the vision and make it plain. Write it down. What would you like? What do you want your life to look like? How do you want your life to look? What do you desire from your life? What do you desire that you want to do with your life? When I sat down and I wrote that book, I did not realize that I was writing a vision and making it plain. But I did not know that I was going to go through what I went through after I wrote that book. I went through some things. Now, I'd been through some things, but I went through some things after I wrote that book. For His glory. But I did. It was a decision I decided that I was going to have to make. So I wrote it. And after having made that decision, I started to get led by the Lord as to how to get to the desired end result. Creating, leading, guiding me to what my expected end for that experience was going to be. Okay? So, with that being said, I started a process. And in starting that process, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. And it began the conception of the development of my branding that I'm building now. But in that process, I had to learn how to take care of me first in the process. Take care of me first. What do you mean? I had to learn how to take care of my body, to health prep myself, to be able to handle carrying what I was carrying. How did I do that? As I told you, I became vegan. I went through a 21-day consecration. And by the end of that 21-day consecration, I was having certain health issues in my body, and when I went vegan for that 21 day Daniel fast, I realized my body felt so much better that I wanted to go vegan completely. I had already cut out a lot of the other processes of beef and meat and all these types of things because I was having such bad acid reflux that I just couldn't withstand it. And because I couldn't withstand it, I had to let it go. And when I realized my body felt so much better, because I had to do a actual physical regimen after getting sick, they put me on medication for a four medication antibiotic. And somebody told me years after, when I told them what I had dealt with in my body, they said, that's the umpteenth most intense antibiotic regimen to do for your stomach. Yeah. And after that, I realized that all food, I had to balance it out. And when I went on that 21 day Daniel fast, I was preparing my body. I went vegan. I stopped eating meat. The second 21 day Daniel fast I did, I actually found a meat substitute for all the meats that I didn't no longer eat. So I now had a replacement for it. So I was like happy. And I was preparing my body. I started juicing. I started doing the things that was needed to cultivate my body to be able to carry the weight of preparing to build what I was building out for the building of the concept. Now, I don't want to sit here, I don't want to sit and belabor this concept any longer because I think this video is just about long enough for tonight. But I will tell you this. If you want a sneak peek into that book, you have the right to go and check it out. Link is in my bio. But I will tell you this. If you go in there, there is a price tag attached to it. And I'm going to announce this, okay? Anybody that purchases it at that price, when it becomes a physical copy, because it's only a digital one, when it becomes a physical copy, I will send it to you. Okay? When I announce it, we're going to work it out. All right? I will have a list of names of whoever purchases it at its price. How's that sound? You help me, I help you. So with that being said, for tonight's video, I hope this blessed you. Until next time, this is Taj McCameron for Steam to Live the Dream. And I hope you are going to continue to walk in your purpose. Bye-bye.